Alrighty then, hello everybody and welcome to the Alex Cuesta Show. We are back for another week, a little bit later than normal, recording on Friday, August 26th of 2022. Not our normal Wednesday recording, but we did make it. We are here, and if you like what you hear, please like, share, follow, subscribe, rate it 5 stars, spread this word of mouth to everybody you know. Follow us on the socials at the Alex Cuesta Show. And when I say us, I'm talking about me, Alex. I'm talking about my brother, David. Hi, David.
What up? What is up? I'm not the greatest. I've been doing some manual labor over the past 2 days of my job. Usually it doesn't involve a lot of manual labor, but this has been a lot. And my body is like slightly breaking today. I don't know exactly what's happening, but I could tell you all the parts that are in a weird type of pain, not like a sore type of pain. Like maybe a pain that I should be concerned of. But either way, other than that, I'm fine. I mean, I'm kind of used to that stuff, but it just was weird to feel that today.
I've seen you complaining in our group chat a little because you're a bitch. So we're just going to, we're just going to kind of know. So we weren't able to have a show closer to your birthday, but your birthday was this past Monday, right? So happy birthday. How old are you now?
26. I'm an old man.
You are an old bitch.
I'm an old man.
You really are. You are getting there.
I'm on the other side of 20s.
Every year you get a little closer to me, but then my birthday comes and we go back to our regular
that's kind of how that works.
I don't like that. I just want you to continue to get closer.
How the world
turns. I don't like getting old. Anyway, so I'm doing well. Dave, we have some real reasons to feel good, though, because we got great news on our Brooklyn Nets front, Dave.
Yes, we did.
I just want to do a quick comment on that.
No, that's fine.
Kevin Durant rescinded his trade request, which is massive. Apparently, he met with Sean Marks, Steve Nash, his agent, and Joe Tsai, the owner. They all talked and they came to an agreement. The only agreement I can imagine that they made in order to keep Kevin Durant and to not have Marks and Nash fired are you are going to extend Kyrie Irving first. And because all that bullshit on, they're not backcourt of friends anymore. Cool, they just been working out together the past week. Shut up. And number 2, there is not a single thing that goes on in this organization, whether it is personnel, I don't care if it's the janitor in the arena, people coming, plays run, decisions without my approval and Kyrie Irving's approval. Because they're a tandem, they come in a package. That has to be the only way they kept Kevin Durant happy. Because what people don't know behind the scenes, and I'm not going to give away anything behind the scenes, is it's not, so the national media pundits with Kevin Durant are just spouting off because it's a popular thing to do. Stephen A. Smith, I actually do like Stephen A. Smith, but he has a job to do. He has to get ratings. He gets them. But there were things that went on behind closed doors with the Brooklyn Nets that I have knowledge of that were one of the main reasons why Kevin Durant, after the Kyrie Irving stuff went on, was like, this is an organization I can't be a part of anymore. I don't care that I signed that extension. I want out. Things seem to have smoothed over. And the only way I could see it smoothing over is if they just gave Kevin Durant the full keys with Kyrie Irving and said, this is now yours. You came here to help us win a championship. You and Kyrie said that. We have Ben now. Work with him. Go win us championships. We will get out of your way. Dave, am I wrong at all? Did you read the tea leaves with that as well, looking that way?
I mean, that is probably the best conclusion to draw from it until we actually finally get something out of that camp, either one, which we probably won't for a long time. But yeah, they did the thing that almost everyone said to do, was if you have a player like Kevin Durant, you have to keep him. You have to do what you have to do to keep him. Basketball is almost unlike any other sport where you have a superstar on the floor that automatically basically puts you in the playoffs unless they get hurt. So, and especially a star like Kevin Durant, yet again, a toe away from basically going to the finals that year. So but that's the thing, is that you really need to you really need to see what the Nets had to do and what they most likely did. And that's what I could see there, is that here you go, Durant. You basically have full keys, even though you should have had keys to the franchise in the first place.
100%. But that has to be it. So that's our quick little aside because really, really happy about that. Dave, I'm going to throw another curveball. So, inside baseball, before we get on the show and record, me and Dave like to kind of chit chat and figure out what we're going to talk about, like any other proper, decent show. We have some sort of organization. We kind of like to get a little bit of our thoughts out. Me being the asshole I am and deciding to throw a curveball and throw in something that we absolutely did not discuss. But did you hear, Dave, that the government, our wonderful, wonderful government, the Committee on essentially aliens, the Committee on Alien Encounters that they created, came out with a document that said that they believe that there is a good amount of essentially UFOs that are man-made. It was buried in this big report, but they absolutely confirmed that they believe there is a lot that are not man-made and that their major concern is, I think it's cross-dimensional ones where they can go from space to the sky to the water extremely quickly.
Yeah.
This was buried in a report. Now, Dave, there has been no reporting on this. No one's talking about this.
Why would you want to?
Which is why we like to talk about this stuff, because I know me and you love aliens. Did you see? I'm not giving all the technical stuff, but
yeah, I did see that like a report came out not too long ago, but honestly, I didn't even look at it because I'm like, it's probably heavily redacted and probably says nothing. But
that's something, Dave.
Yeah, no, if that is true, yet again, a very interesting thing. We said it before, we'll say it again. Very interesting thing for the government to come out and say, like, yeah, probably not man-made if with what we were seeing with these UFOs.
Yes.
And I mean, if they actually said like interdimensional or cross-dimensional, that's really interesting if they actually put that in paper.
Diminutive, like something like that. It's basically saying you can cross domains at super high speeds that we cannot possibly do.
Interesting. And well, I mean, if this is like, if everything that they're saying is accurate and everything that they know to the best of their knowledge, obviously they're not going to give us everything. And I'm not going to lie, this might be one of the only things that I would say, you know what? Maybe we don't need everything yet, government, especially if you don't know what's happening.
Marco Rubio, slow down. You're really the one pushing this.
Yeah, because like this is kind of break your brain territory. But like I said, you kind of have to take everything just at a time. We'll see what happens with that. Like I said, if they're putting that onto paper and actually like letting that go out into public eye, that's another big step. It is another big step to find out, is there actually anything going on in the skies that we either cannot see or we might only catch a glimpse of?
This is Marco Rubio's legacy. While we were all sitting here focusing on inflation, Ukraine, Biden being dead, all this type of shit, a former president getting raided, our banana republic occurring, Marxism winning and not winning and everything, Marco Rubio's like, fucking idiots, aliens are here. Stop. I'm trying to help you. Like, you're going to die. Stop worrying about human bullshit. Let's all not die.
Not to go for too long on this, but just it is interesting to see that, yet again, if all correct, if all accurate, let's say there are aliens or some kind of dimensional species that are moving and watching us, maybe just running past.
He's exposing Nancy Pelosi.
Yeah, she's like the only person I would say. Well, her and Zuck.
Confirmed lizard
her and
person.
Zuck. It's just the knuckle. The knuckle
she's
shuffle.
A lizard person. Zuck's a cyborg. They're different. They might be competing for world domination.
I could see Zuck being no. Either way, but it draws into like just the fantasy aspect of all the alien stories that have been made. Like, okay, let's say that's true. What the hell are they? I mean, they're probably not evil or bent on just killing us, otherwise they would have done so already, but who knows? I have no idea.
Plot twist, all the great sci-fi we've ever read, your Star Treks, your Star Wars, all your what's the big one that was the biggest Foundation, all these Star Trek type of things, all actually written by aliens telling us exactly how to do this fucking technology, what we should have, what we can have, what we're capable of using and making on our planet, and we're just too stupid to do it.
That'd be pretty cool. And I mean, we could go on a bunch of stuff with this, like with aliens and a bunch of other things, but I don't want to get too long.
Last question before we move on to our main stuff. Have you heard a fucking thing about Space Force?
No, not a singular thing about Space Force.
What are our Guardians doing? What do we have actual guardians? Where are they?
They might be doing actually nothing. Like,
where are they? What are they doing? We hear about the Army, we hear about the Marines, we hear about the Navy. We hear about a lot of things. Since Space Force was fully signed in by President Trump, they're recruiting. I've actually seen a Facebook ad for recruiting for Space Force through the Air Force and things like that. Yeah, I've seen one. And I'm just, what the fuck are they doing? What is their training? What are they preparing for? Why do they exist? Why do we need guardians in space? Like, what is going on? So, a lot of questions there. Maybe we'll do a little research and find out what's going on with Space Force.
I mean, for me, it's probably just, Trump did want something kind of cool. So he made something kind of cool. I can't see how you disagree with that being kind of cool, even if it was Trump that made it.
No, it's fascist.
But either way, I could see it just like another kind of government program where they really don't do anything. A government force where they don't do anything. Like, that's not something out of the ballpark for me. In fact, I'd land on that before maybe they're doing something actually top secret.
If I don't see an aluminum Falcon take flight anytime soon, I'll be pissed. Anyway, we're gonna jump into
an aluminum Falcon.
What the hell's an aluminum Falcon? So we're going to go into the actual things we discussed that we were going to talk about before I decided to throw curveballs in. We're going to talk about David's favorite sport by far, bar none. We're going to talk about some UFC. Dave, take the floor.
UFC 278 happened. And mainly I want to talk about two fights, even though I'm going to touch on one real quick, which had a little bit of I wouldn't say too much controversy, but maybe speaking on how the fight went. We're going to start off with the third fight in the main card before the co-main in the main. Merab Rashvili versus Jose Aldo. Rashvili ended up winning by unanimous decision. And a lot of the fight was really spent up on the cage. Rashvili had him in the clinch. He tried to make some moves, but a lot of times he just had him really stuck there. And, I mean, it's a devastating loss for Jose Aldo. Who knows if this is basically it for him? Maybe he has one more fight because he wanted a title run and then basically retire. So we'll see what happens. So it is a devastating loss either way. But there's a question that came up, like, should the ref break him apart a little quicker on that? If he's not working a little harder, not just throwing strikes, but like actually searching for the takedown, actively searching for a physical, possibly fight-stopping combo shots. So I'm not sure because it does put the onus on the person defending to stop it. But a part of me also says that if you're not searching for a takedown, if you're not searching to finish this fight, then should you be able to stay in that position for too long? I feel like it's a big question because they are defending the takedown. They are defending from any fight-stopping shots. So I think it's an interesting question. I don't think because Rashvili is not that kind of fighter. He's a grinder. He's a big wrestler, but he actually takes people down and tries to hurt him. So it was interesting how the fight played out. But overall, it's a conversation that, I mean, will probably be had again because it'll probably happen another time. And I think it's probably just going to evolve in MMA to see that not happen as much because, I don't know, some kind of other technique comes out that it helps out a lot. And you see someone do it and something blows up. I don't know. But I just thought that was a very interesting point on that fight. Even though it's probably boring to a lot of people, I think you can still take away a lot from it.
Like you said, it definitely hurt Aldo. Hurts his chances of going out on his terms in a way. Mm-hmm. For Rashvili's perspective, you take what you're given. He obviously in that clinch, he was dominant. He was controlling the octagon. He was controlling the fight. So there's no way you lose if you're allowed to stay in that position for the whole fight. So I don't blame him. It did look, from my eyes, it did look like Rashvili was working. It did look like Aldo was doing a good job defending. Now, with my standpoint, I really like collegiate high school wrestling. So in collegiate high school wrestling, even if they're in a position where the obvious aggressor, the person in offense, is attempting to get to a position and to get a pin, get some points, but the person is defending well, and it's obvious for the official that there is going to be no one making way either way, they will fairly quickly come in, break that up, stand them both back up.
Yeah.
I think a good official does that. I think a good official, and especially in a fight of this magnitude for both those guys, because for Vashvili, this is skyrocketing him up into a conversation
for a title
of
fight
your
soon.
next fight gets you the number one contendership right away. Like, even if he's not there right now, depending on what goes on ahead.
Yeah, he's not there right now, but
he's not there. He
next
needs
fight,
one more big fight, but he'll fight a top 5.
Yes.
And if he wins that, he'll get the title shot next. So it's a huge win for him. And we've all seen Vashvili fight. He's a very good fighter. Like you said, he's a grinder. He's not this guy that wins cheap. Like, if people want to say, I've seen it saying it was a cheap way, like, it wasn't a great win.
He's not exactly point fighting in any kind of way.
And that's, but it is, you take the fights that are in front of you. When people, Adesanya Romero comes to mind. Adesanya didn't have to win that fight. He was the champion. That was on Romero to fight him. You know what I mean? The champion is there to, it was a terrible fight. But, you take the fights that you're in. You take the fights that you're in. So Vashvili did his job. I think the official, who was officiating?
I cannot remember.
It wasn't her.
I cannot remember.
Because you want to know something? People criticize Herb Dean for his quick stops and things like that. He does stop quick every once in a while, but I don't mind that in UFC too much because you're dealing with potential brain damage if guys are actually hurt. Like, let's be realistic. I know they enter in with that chance, but in Herb Dean, we'll step in and break that up pretty quick. He's not going to let you work that clinch that long because he wants you to get back to the center and fight. Now, I will say this. It wasn't like Aldo was only in that position once.
Yes.
So exactly, when does it become on Aldo to not let himself get onto the cage like that?
Yep.
You are not controlling the octagon. You're not doing your job. So even if, it's not like the ref didn't break it up at all. He did. It took him a little bit longer, but you're fighting. You have a former champion up against the cage on that clinch. You have a guy hungry for it, young guy coming up. I mean, the official's kind of in a rock and a hard place because should Jose Aldo be better in that position? He's been in that position 7,000 times. He should be better than. You know what I mean? Like, he should be a little, Vashvili he does have strength on him. He does have size. But don't get yourself put back in that position multiple times. So should the official break it up a little quicker? I believe so. But how many times can you break it up and then it get back there? Aldo needs to be better in that position in my eyes. It falls, I think, more on Aldo than it does on anybody else in my eyes.
It's just a very interesting conversation to have.
Absolutely.
Because there's always things to talk about in MMA to either improve the sport or just find interesting. Like, okay, what's happening here?
And but that's a legitimate technique. It's like leg kicking is a legitimate technique. Working the clinch in the cage is a legitimate technique because one little opening and mistake wins you the fight. So go ahead, Dave.
So we're going to move on to the co-main. The co-main was a ton of fun, man. The co-main was a war. It was Luke Rockhold versus Paulo Costa. It was so much fun. Rockhold came out and proved a lot that night. He proved a lot. Coming in after 3 years. Everyone's saying, does he have a chin anymore? Because he really doesn't look like he had some 3 years ago. Yep. Is his chin going to be able to stand up to Paulo Costa, one of the hardest hitters in middleweight?
Yep.
And will he be able to catch Costa at hard? Because we know the technique of Rockhold. Even though he's older, he's still damn good. So just the war in that fight. Costa took it handedly because Rockhold was tired as all hell by round 2. You could see it. He even bent over in the cage to catch breath. But I mean, big ups to Paulo Costa because he did try to finish the fight. It's not like the man wasn't trying to finish the fight. He was hitting him. He was hitting him hard. And he had him in tough spots a bunch of times. But all the credit to Rockhold as well, because sometimes when a fighter doesn't want to die, they just don't die. I mean, there's 2 very memorable moments from that fight. One of them is Rockhold being backed up against the cage after another flurry from Costa. He says, "Fuck you," hits him with a left straight, and actually stuns Costa and sends him backwards a little bit. Awesome to watch. And at the end of the fight, exactly. And then at the end of the fight, Rockhold ends up in Costa's guard and just starts smearing the blood all over Costa. I'm not gonna lie, I looked away for a second, and one of my friends was like, "What the hell is Rockhold doing? Is he just smearing his blood on?" I'm like, "Oh, no way. He's probably just trying to get like some kind of head placement to help out." But I looked and I was like, no. He's smearing his blood on him because he wants him to show like you didn't beat me like you should have.
And Costa's reaction to it, I think, makes it better because you see clearly once Costa realizes that he's rubbing his blood on him, he picks his head up a little to get out of harm's way, but he gives the biggest, goofiest smile.
Yes.
Yeah. Like you mentioned, the fight was a war.
Mm-hmm.
It was, I came into this fight going Costa needs to knock out Luke Rockhold.
He should.
In order to get his standing back, he needs to knock him out. After seeing the fight, the decision does help Costa a lot because he was handily the better fighter, which we knew he would be. I think outside of Rockhold catching him and knocking him out, a free KO, we knew Costa was going to dominate this fight. I don't think there was a question in anybody's mind. Even if you were a hugest Rockhold fan, you knew what he was getting into. I still think not knocking out Rockhold doesn't hurt him as much as I thought it was going to, but it certainly hurts him a little bit because you couldn't knock out Luke Rockhold, who was knocked out all the time towards the end of his run at 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. If you do watch the fight, though, like you said, you'll see that it wasn't for lack of trying. Exactly, Costa gave hits that would knock out almost any guy in the middleweight. If he would knock out Izzy Adesanya if Adesanya took that hit, a few of those hits, like it would have been lights out for a lot of guys. But like you said, Rockhold, he retired right after, and this was Rockhold's way of, I'm going out how I want to go out. Mm-hmm. And he did. And, kudos to Luke Rockhold, tough son of a bitch. He's one of those villains turned heroes right in this time because Luke Rockhold didn't have a lot of fans when he left. And now just the way he came back, and especially the way he fought this fight, I think he gained a lot of respect, similar to the way kind of Nate Diaz now is viewed as a kind of folk hero when he was the greatest douchebag before Conor McGregor, when he was popular. So it's like a great fight. I think, Costa needs to be this way in every fight. I will say that. Costa needs to not switch this style against any fighter because Costa has the physical traits and ability to compete with anybody in the middleweight. Anybody. And I'm even including Izzy Adesanya in that. Because if he's aggressive, if he's pressing, we know Costa can take hits. He shouldn't be afraid to get hit. The man has a chin. He's bigger than a brick shithouse. Like, what the fuck is Paulo Costa afraid of?
I think he got his groove back. Nuts. I think he got his groove back coming up to this fight. I think I don't know what was going on with him, with both Izzy. I mean, maybe just the way Izzy strikes, it's difficult. And, first time seeing that is different from just watching a video and being in the octagon. Yeah. But that and Vettori, I mean, the whole weight problem with Vettori and in the fight, it's a lot. It's really he seemed like he was either in a bad headspace or something was going on with Paulo Costa. But in this training camp, he seemed a lot more fun. He seemed a lot more happy. He's still making the same old jokes, but he seemed like he was prepared for this war. He was going to have a lot of fun fighting Rockhold, and it looks like he's back in the groove he wanted to be in. Go ahead. Who
do you think Costa sees next? Who's his obvious next person? Because he's not. I think he's a fight away from getting a top 5. If he gets another really good fight, if he gets a good top 10 under his belt, I think then he could jump into the top 5, and then I think he has to look at contendership again. It's good enough to be in that mix.
Yes.
Listen, it's 2 losses under his belt right now? Only 2?
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. It's only 2.
Yeah.
So it's difficult because right now, almost everyone, actually, I think everyone that is in the top is scheduled for a fight. You have Izzy versus Pereira for the title. Mm-hmm. You have, Whitaker versus Vettori for basically whoever is up next. You have Cannonier versus Strickland. I believe you have Brunson versus Hermanson. I think so. Okay. So that takes out a bunch of your top guys right there. And Paulo Costa's kind of in the middle of that at 6.
So I would love to see him take on the winner of Strickland Cannonier. I think that would be just a beautiful fight that he would, either one of those guys, I think would be a great matchup for him. I think both of them would be another war, but I really feel like that'll be a test. We'd find out of all those guys you mentioned, we'd really find out if Paulo Costa's groove is back, fighting one of those guys. Because if he can beat a Strickland or a Cannonier, he's right back in the mix. Because both of those guys, there's Israel Adesanya and there's everyone else still. We know that. Mm-hmm. But there's a lot of really good guys in that top 10.
Exactly. And it's funny because I mean, this is a small thing, a small statement, but it's funny because it's like UFC kind of got a WWF storyline in there with Pereira coming back to try to beat the shit out of Adesanya. It's actually hilarious, the storyline that's going on there. So, I mean, can't wait for that. A bunch of middleweight fights should be very good coming up. But we're going to move on from the co-main and go on to the main event, which was huge. Welterweight championship. Kamaru Usman, who's on a 15-fight win streak versus Leon Rocky. Well, I'll give Kamaru his nickname because I was going to give Leon his nickname. Kamaru, the Nigerian Nightmare Usman versus Leon Rocky Edwards. And coming into this fight, a lot of it's about Usman, obviously. I mean, he's pound for pound number one.
Yeah, beat Colby Covington, beat Jorge Masvidal
twice, both of them.
Masvidal twice, so he deserves it. Absolutely deserves all that.
Pound for pound number one. Damn good fighter. Like I said, about like winning this ties Anderson Silva's fight win streak, which is incredible in the sport. 16 fights. That's out of this world. He beat Edwards the first time around. He wrestled the hell out of him the first time around because they both had really one style kind of fighting at that point when they met a lot earlier. And then you have Edwards coming in. How good is his wrestling now? How much better is his striking than Usman's? Because you coming in, you know Edwards is a better striker than Usman. If you don't know that, then I don't think you've been paying enough attention. But it's just interesting because it's like, okay, you're a better striker, but can you handle the pressure of Usman? Can you handle, because it's not just his pressure he puts on wrestling wise, but I think a lot of fighters, especially when you get to that point, there is a certain aura. There is a certain intimidation factor that comes in when you step into an octagon with a fighter that is that decorated at this point. So you really have to wonder what's going to happen with his mental coming into that cage and actually being locked in.
And I've always said, you've heard me say it, the greats make the people that they're fighting against fight their fight. So, and we saw that when Usman and Masvidal fought both times. Masvidal is probably close to as good of a striker as Leon Edwards. He's one of the world-class strikers, and we didn't see him attack the way he attacks everyone else. When people fight Izzy Adesanya, we don't see the same style when they go at Izzy.
When people fight Volk.
When people fight Volk, when people fight Francis Ngannou. These type of fighters, these type of monsters back in the day with Anderson Silva, they go in, and it's like, it's like in any other sport, Dave. Football, too. The Patriots dynasty was so great because the Patriots did what the Patriots wanted, and everyone else tried to beat the Patriots at their own game. It's very similar to those types of things, but go ahead. So that's my little...
That's the hype coming into this fight. The second fight between them, what's going to be the difference? Can Leon Rocky Edwards from England fight? Like, going to be if you win second English UFC champion ever, only behind Michael Bisping.
Yep.
Can he do it? Can he pull off this huge upset? So we come to the fight. All the fanfare is there. The fight starts. Round one. Edwards gets a beautiful trip on Usman, ends up in full mount, and then takes his back and then was searching for an RNC at the end of the round. Fantastic start for Leon Edwards. Fantastic start. So he wins the first round, no doubt. After that, Usman decides, you know what, I don't care. If you want to try to wrestle me, I'm going to wrestle you.
Yep.
So Usman then wrestles Edwards for the next 3 rounds and the 5th round as well. And
it's apparent that Usman is the better wrestler in those 3 rounds.
100%.
Edwards had no answer.
Dominate.
For Usman's wrestling. The only thing he was able to do was to guard from a finish. That's all Edwards was able to do was guarding from finishes and going from, and Usman was impressive in showing his repertoire, trying to do different things. He was never kind of, he would continually try to work something new, and kudos to Edwards and his defense when he was in that position. But Usman was down.
So going from round 4 to round 5, Leon Edwards' coach gives him a fantastic speech in that corner, man. An absolutely amazing speech saying what is wrong with you. This is not who you are. Go out there and win. Like that kind of speech. I can't do it justice. I would go watch it yourself. Round 5. Things are going the same way. Things are going very much the same way. It is down to a minute left, hitting 55 seconds.
And I'll say this, and it's what Usman does. He is fighting the way he has been fighting and dominant and winning.
Pressure.
Unbelievable pressure, unbelievable wrestling. And If you make a mistake, I'm going to knock you the fuck out. If you don't make a mistake, I'm going to win by unanimous decision because you'll be too tired. Because I wear you down. You're exhausted. I'm laying on you for 4 to 5 rounds. So go ahead, continue.
Minute left, 55 seconds left. Commentators from everyone on the bench: Joe Rogan, Daniel Cormier, John Anik, everyone basically. No, John Anik was the only one that didn't count him out, but everyone basically counting him out. Dean Thomas, an analysis guy, counting him out. Everyone basically saying like this is basically over. Which, I mean, if you're watching it, you're kind of thinking the same thing. It's a minute left. Usman has dominated the whole fight. Edwards then throws a jab. Usman ducks to his right. Edwards then throws a left, I believe is a feint, to cover up a high head kick that lands flush on Kamaru Usman and knocks him out cold. Cold.
The meme of watching Usman's face just looking up into heaven is going to be in infamy forever.
But knocks him out cold. 55 seconds left. Welterweight championship. Second fight against a man that dominated you, against a pound-for-pound king now that is dominating you. You hit him with something that is going to be remembered in UFC history to win the welterweight championship, bring it home to England, and then he does the Billy walk, and they play the Rocky theme. Like, it's one of the most incredible sights you could possibly see. I mean, you saw one of our friends, Joe Hackett, who has come on this show multiple times. He had a snap story of everyone that was at the place where we were watching. Everyone's jaws are on the floor. I mean, I'm jumping up and down. I did the Billy walk myself. That was absolutely incredible. But to me, everyone should watch. I mean, I would watch the full fight to understand the magnitude of this head kick, the magnitude of this shot, of believing in himself for basically one final time to get this championship. That's absolutely incredible. Go ahead.
I'll tell you this, kids. If you like martial arts, if you train at all, anything like that, if you ever want to see how to make a proper level change to make them defend where you want them to defend and execute a perfect level change for a KO, this was it. Because I don't know, it wasn't very Usman-like to go for that jab the way he did. I will say that. That was a big mistake that he made because Usman is usually better at slipping that and staying in a guard. I don't think he ever expected Edwards to follow up that jab with the kick, which was something that when they were in the stand-up, Edwards did attempt a few times. It wasn't like he was
flaunted it.
He flaunted it. He was looking for that the whole time. I mean, a little knock maybe on Usman's corner for not talking to him, because sometimes when you're in the fight, your corner sees more. So the corner should be saying, hey, look what he's setting up. I don't know if it's a feint, but he's trying to set something up low-high. Look for his strikes low-high, whether it's a good hook, kick, look low-high. Don't fall low. Eat the jab, don't fall. But you know what, though? Those types of things happen in fights.
I was gonna say I don't think he can say anything like that to him. He's winning the fight easily.
You've been dominating for 3 rounds in 4 minutes. You're there. You're at the back end, and you know what? I guarantee at that point Usman is sitting there thinking, okay, he's just gonna start throwing. A minute left. I'm gonna see my hands fly. Maybe I can get a little more pressure. Get him down one more time. Win this fight. I don't think he ever thought a foot was gonna come to his face.
No.
I don't.
No,
I just think it was unexpected.
No, it was unexpected. He dipped the way he normally dips off a jab. And he just did not see it coming this time. That's all. That's what happened. He did not see it coming this time. Edwards placed it perfectly. It's honestly a fantastic story where Edwards has come from in order to now become the UFC champion. And just the way that he did it, it's one of the most amazing things to watch happen live.
So I was thinking of this. What does this do to how people approach Kamaru Usman? Will the approach change based on the next fight? Because Leon Edwards and Usman is going to happen again.
Yes.
Edwards absolutely said, I'm fighting him again. The champion deserves a rematch. I'm giving the former champion a rematch to prove I am a true champion. Edwards had no choice, but I'm happy he said it right out front. I'm fighting him again. If Usman either wins by the skin of his teeth and Edwards really unloads, throws his hands, and we see a lot of flaws in Usman's game, or Usman loses again, What does this do for the approach against Usman? Do people now completely change their approach? Does a person like Masvidal? I said to you before, is Masvidal kind of kicking himself in the fucking head for the way he approached both of his fights against Kamaru Usman? Mm-hmm. Watching Leon Edwards being able to land that strike, being able to dominate the first round, just with the simple sweep, which again was set up by a very good feint, which was set up by something that maybe we're seeing a little bit of a flaw in Kamaru Usman's game. Maybe his defense against elite striking isn't very good, which is why he's such a pressure monster and a wrestling monster. I don't know. Maybe this changes the approach. And I also said, if Leon Edwards wins a second round, Colby Covington better get his head fixed up because this is Colby's big chance. Because I do believe, weirdly enough, Colby could beat Leon Edwards. Because I think Colby lets his hands and feet fly a little more than Kamaru Usman does, which along with this pressure would help him put Leon in a worse position. Am I wrong in my assessment there?
I think it gets very tough for me. Usman and Colby are very much very similar fighters.
They are.
I think Colby is actually a better wrestler, but like I said, it just gets very interesting and very tough because now Leon comes into this next fight throwing a little more, definitely throwing a little more. I mean, I would, especially because he knows he can defend now when he's on his back, and he can at least get up a little bit. Like he can do that. So yes, you do need to be worried about the wrestling, but not as much. Just you cannot accept the position on your back. You have to get back up. You have to make him stand and strike with you, at least for a little bit. Because once you got him hurting, he's not thinking of wrestling as much anymore. And he's a little weaker, at least at that point. But for Colby, it's going to be a similar problem that Usman might have in the third fight. We'll see. I don't know. Because he was dominating the fight, but you get knocked out cold. The other guy gets a lot of confidence against you. Things could happen very differently in the third fight.
And after that first knockout, you are much easier to knock out. That is a fact of fighting.
Exactly. And the thing is with Colby, I feel like Colby searches for a submission more than Usman.
Yes,
so maybe that could help him against Edwards.
He certainly, but he works it better too. Yeah, he works when he's down there. He works for it more.
But Colby also sometimes gets a little bit of an ego while standing, and you don't want to get that against Leon Edwards. You will get picked apart.
That's Colby's game is kind of an ego. So
no, I know that. But that's the thing. It's just like him and Usman are so similar fighters. If Edwards cracks the code at all in the third fight, it's really tough for Colby. It's a really, really tough fight for Colby. Now, I will say we have a monster coming up in Khamzat Chimaev. So whoever is holding that title might just be a placeholder soon, because the way the fight went with Gilbert Burns did knock him down. He did get a bunch of strikes in. So Chimaev had to learn a lot, but Chimaev didn't get put out. Chimaev still pressured and still made Burns back up a lot. No one does that. Not a lot of people do that.
Doesn't back up.
Exactly. So that's the thing.
If Usman loses the second fight, if Dana does not do Usman Chimaev, Dana White should be stripped of his ownership as president.
I heard people saying that it would be interesting to see Colby Chimaev after Colby Diaz fight. Not Colby Diaz, the Chimaev Diaz fight.
Chimaev Diaz,
which would be very interesting.
It would be, and it would kind of be the precursor. But if I'm Dana White and I'm thinking Usman loses twice, former champion, Chimaev beats Usman, you now set up a huge top card with Leon and Chimaev, and it already skyrockets Chimaev. Because let's face it, Colby and Masvidal have had their chances. Yep. If Chimaev jumps both of them, it's not a bad thing. It's not wrong, because those two have had plenty of chances already to claim that title. So let's move on, because we could talk about UFC for the rest of the night. We want to talk about something a little bit more fun watching it.
Yeah, so very fun watching it.
Very fun watching it. So if you have been paying attention at all lately, Barstool Sports is something that started off as kind of a dudes from Boston talking about sports in a funny way. And Barstool Sports is a very fun thing. I like Barstool Media. They are funny. They're good at what they do. I think they're Boston homers. Outside of their shitty writing about Boston, their content is funny and good. The owner of Barstool, well, He was the founder owner. He's kind of given it up now. He just kind of manages everything going on. Dave Portnoy, he's still the face of the company. Everyone knows who Dave Portnoy is. He has found himself embattled in a little bit of a spat with someone who has skyrocketed in popularity on the right side of the political aisle in Alex Stein. Now, a little background on Alex Stein. Primetime 99 Alex Stein is a comedian by trade, which is, I don't think people realize that Alex Stein is a comedian.
He's not a comedian. He's a cartoon character. The things he does with his faces and with his voice, he's not a real person.
He's a human cartoon character, but he is a comedian by trade. So his whole goal with a lot of his shtick, yes, he is political about it, but it is meant to be comedy. And if anyone has ever seen the over-the-top individual at a school board meeting or at a council meeting, screeching, doing a rap, screaming, kind of with a goofy, high-pitched voice, pasty white dude, doesn't look tall, but actually is pretty damn tall, that's Alex Stein. He's hilarious. He's a troll. He trolled AOC. He's the one that called her a big booty Latina, which is amazingly funny. And the media properly, got it wrong and saying he only went after women. No, he made fun of everybody that day, especially Adam Kinzinger. He went at him as hard as anybody, and Dan Crenshaw. But that is Alex Stein. Alex Stein is a troll and a comedian, but he's also someone who is battling a culture war, which he believes needs to be done on the right side of the aisle to combat the leftists. Not to get too much into the weeds there, but that's kind of where he comes from. So that's the background on our two individuals. It's a good transition because we're talking about UFC. We were talking about UFC, and here we are. So what goes on here? So Alex Stein does his Alex Stein thing. He is talking in Vegas at a city council meeting, and he is doing one of his big shticks. It's funny. I recommend going to watch it, but he's all disheveled. He's in a button-up, unbuttoned. He looks he's very frantic. And what he does, he always makes fun of leftist, wokeist bullshit at these meetings. But he does it in a funny way. He does it in a more controlled way outside of the way I talk about it. So he does that. Barstool catches it, puts him on, retweets it, and says, this is every man who spent a weekend in Vegas. So then Alex Stein responds, tongue-in-cheek, it's so cute that Barstool Sports is owned by Stool Presidente, who's accused of the most heinous things, but they are too afraid to keep my content up. Now, this comes down after Barstool took down what they posted of him. And, the easy explanation could have been Portnoy coming back and being like, hey, we're owned by a gambling company, couldn't keep it up, great job, we find you funny, that's why we posted you. We'll post the next one. Don't talk about gambling next time. But no, you brought this up before. That would have been the old Dave Portnoy thing. It was funny. It was dope. We just can't put it up. We have reasons. New Dave Portnoy, who's gotten big in his britches, who has a $100 million company out of nothing, certainly has gone to his head. He's much more of a figure than he is now a bro from Boston that just like talking sports. He shoots back with, buddy, shut the fuck up. We're owned by a gambling company. We have roughly 9,000 training sessions. Not to post shit like this because regulators don't like it. Stool sales guy was too busy chewing gum and posted it without watching it. Go back to whatever hole you crawled out of. Now, this is Dave Portnoy being tone deaf. This is Dave Portnoy being stupid. And this is Dave Portnoy also sitting there and saying, we are not what you think we are. We are owned by a higher entity that is just here to make money off of you guys gambling, which everyone already knew with the Barstool Sportsbook, but you don't have to be so blunt about it, you douchebag. So then they go in a back and forth spat. We can read them because
we don't have to.
We don't have to. But they go in a back and forth spat. And long story short, Alex Stein absolutely destroys Dave Portnoy. This is Alex Stein's domain. Twitter, trolling, this type of stuff. Dave Portnoy does it. It's not as good as Alex Stein. He destroys him. Portnoy figures out that most of his followership on Barstool are also people that are fans of Alex Stein, the things that he does. He gets ratioed to all hell on every single tweet. And, Dave Portnoy is going to continue to be Dave Portnoy. I don't have anything against Barstool. I don't have anything against him. A lot of right-wing commentary was like, oh, good, I'm happy Barstool conservatism is ending because, look, we're seeing Dave Portnoy's true colors. And I'm not a fan of that either. I think that's kind of corny because he got into a spat with one of your compadres. you're going to sit there and I don't think Dave Portnoy is a conservative. I don't think Dave Portnoy is a big liberal. I think Dave Portnoy is a bro that just wants to sit there and be left the fuck alone to make his money and watch you gamble your life away. That's all I think Dave Portnoy is. So, I mean, he invited Alex Stein on his podcast. Alex Stein said yes, and then he rescinded it. I don't know. It's a funny thing on the outside looking in, Dave, but I think there's some lessons to be learned here.
I think it's hilarious. But the thing is that people need to learn this lesson, not just from Alex Stein, but from a bunch of people that have in history and even right now that do the same kind of thing that Alex Stein does. What Alex Stein does is he's over the top. He tries to get you to react in what he believes is the predictable manner that you react in. And because he's already a cartoon character, because he's speaking in that high voice, he does faces that make no sense that a human could make. But he's already in this spot where he's outrageous. He's obviously being outrageous. You could not like it. But you just ignore that person because he's not actually harming you. But the thing is, he wraps you in to a predictable action that he feels like you're going to do, like what happened with AOC, like now what happened with Portnoy. A predictable action that then becomes you being made fun of because you just made it so dramatic when it didn't need to be. This guy's outrageous. He's literally walking around basically doing that dumb long stride from any cartoon. Like you could look at Alex Stein and say, yeah, that guy's wacky. But there's no reason to really be mad at him because he's not doing anything. He's just being wacky. Just ignore him. It's kind of cringe. Like you could say that, and you actually win a little bit. I know you don't like it. I don't care. I know you don't like it. I don't care. But either way, it does. But either way, you easily end this situation without even saying anything about that we're owned by a gambling company or anything like that. You end this situation by just saying by saying nothing, one, or two, by just calling him a little weird. Just call him weird. No, everyone's gonna be like, yeah, Alex Stein's kind of weird. Even people that like his content, like, yeah, Alex Stein's kind of weird. That's why he's funny.
Even Alex Stein will say he's kind of weird.
Exactly. That's the thing. That's the thing. And then nothing happens to you. Literally nothing happens to you. He's not trying to send people against you. He's just showing a very predictable motion. Now, did he exactly want to do this to Portnoy? I'm not entirely sure, but it just ended up happening because Portnoy, in slightly of a bro mindset, but also slightly of a managerial mindset, got very upset when someone said anything about any of his content that he said that he felt like, it shouldn't be put up, which when you're owned by a company that doesn't want you to put something up, yeah, you're going to be a little mad that it happened. But to go to Twitter and say something like that, Twitter is a cesspool. Everyone knows it. All that's going to happen when you go to Twitter is you luckily get a lot of good feedback, but most of the time get a lot of bad feedback. So that's the issue here, is that it's a stop running into what just the wall he painted, because he painted a road on a wall and you're just running into it. That's all that's happening.
That's a good way to put it. So Alex Stein, he's an interesting case because a lot of people don't like him because of the things that he does. And it's funny when leftists say anything about anything that Alex Stein does because his is mild compared to the bullshit that they say and they do completely and totally. But one of the things that Alex Stein does is he goes into hostile territory and doesn't necessarily provoke anyone particular. Mm-hmm. But if someone comes towards him, he doesn't back down. Mm-hmm. So he's that type of individual. Like, okay, he'll go to Dan Crenshaw and he does those type of things where he yells at him. He went to Beto O'Rourke and yelled things at him and disrupted his whole stuff. And he does that, but he's doing that for a point. Because here's the thing. When elected leftist activists do that at a Trump rally, they're praised. When somebody throws a shoe at George Bush, it's cool because he's a terrible guy that sends people to go die. But when Alex Stein goes to politicians and say, why do you support murdering babies? He's all of a sudden a dirtbag. Or, things like that. Or he calls AOC a big booty Latina. And the reason why he did that, they're saying, why is he saying that to her? And he said, because she sexualized herself this whole time. When you say that people are jealous of you because they just want to have sex with you, why can't I call you a big booty Latina then? So it's like, and his favorite big booty Latina, which I think Eva Mendes took probably, and J Lo were probably pretty angry about that. But I mean, Alex Stein, in the end, what people don't realize, and I don't want the leftists to figure out, is Alex Stein is fucking harmless. He is harmless, but they make him into a much bigger deal than he ever has to be.
I think and I don't want to get into the AOC thing too much because it happened a while ago and that's not what we're talking about. But I think it really exemplifies what not to do when Alex Stein does anything around you. So he says, my favorite big booty Latina, hot, hot, hot like a tamale. You say nothing. If you say absolutely nothing, he just looks like a weird guy who's like talking sexually about you, which actually brings his points down. It brings his reputation down if you say nothing about that. But when you get on your Instagram Live, when you get on camera, and you talk about how he said apparently you have a luscious booty, which was hilarious, but you also show him in the background down the steps in a pink shirt, waving at the camera like a damn child. Like he looks again, he looks so innocent. He looks so innocent in that video. It's so dumb. Like if you just say nothing, if you say nothing, he's on there. Yes. But if you say nothing, he's on there basically sexually harassing you in his own video, and you say nothing and he looks like a bad guy. But you said something. You remembered him saying luscious booty, yet again, hilarious. And then you show him doing the most gentle motion possible. You lost that round.
He went on slightly offensive with Elijah Schaefer, like directly after that. And he was like, I did not say luscious booty. Luscious would have been crossing the line. I made a point to not completely cross the line with what I said. Luscious would have been crossing the line. Yeah, I mean, Alex Stein's legacy to me is not only his little stand-up acts he does at councils and school board meetings. Eye Patch McCain is forever going to be my favorite thing he's ever did with Dan Crenshaw calling him Eye Patch McCain. That is easily, I think, his legacy, and I love it so much.
Yeah. Either way, the lesson to be learned for Portnoy, for anyone, not just for Alex Stein, but for anyone that does bits like this, is just ignore them, because then they usually look like the bad person or just nothing happens. It gets lost into the goddamn abyss. If you don't ignore them and you try to win, you end up losing.
You don't feed the meme. You feed the meme wins. The meme grows and the meme wins. And Alex Stein is a walking meme.
It's you gotta learn this lesson, especially on the internet.
No, don't learn it, because it's hilarious and you get exposed for the morons that you are.
That is true, and that's everyone, honestly.
And again, nothing against Dave Portnoy. I don't mind Dave Portnoy. Keep doing what you do at Barstool. Barstool's dope, but you lost. Take the L.
It's just like
primetime 99 with another win in his chart there.
Yeah.
All right, everybody. I think that's going to close this out. Dave, do you have any last things to say before we go?
No, I actually do not. I'm very excited for more UFC to happen, and I'm very excited for our next talk, which could be a couple things. We'll see. We'll figure it out.
Big news, David has become a big soccer fan.
I have. I've decided to watch soccer or football. I have chosen a team in every big league. So I'm
especially
enjoying
the MLS.
Yeah, exactly. One of the biggest, top 5. So
not even top 5 in North America.
So I am starting to get jerseys of each of my favorite teams I've chosen, mainly off the kits of this year. And I'm enjoying myself. In fact, my first jersey ended up getting on my person. I ordered a Crystal Palace jersey beforehand, which is my favorite Premier League team now. But the jersey I end up on hand now is actually an Ajax jersey, the Bob Marley inspired Ajax jersey. So I'm very happy with it. It is a very nice jersey, and I cannot wait for more to come in.
It is a good way to throw away your money, because the kits you can buy in soccer are endless. Mm-hmm. All right. And with that, we are going to close out the show. Thank you so much for listening. I hope everybody enjoyed it, especially our little asides, which I tend to do to David all the time, so he's pretty ready for him. If you like what you heard, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars, spread this word of mouth. Find us on the socials at The Alex Cuesta Show. We shall be back, hopefully, with our normal time on Wednesday. If not, we'll record sometime next week, because we do these things.
We'll find a way.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. Have a good one.